Let's talk about Apple computers. By the time we're done here, we will set up an Apple computer to configure network devices through the console port. I love Apple computers, sometimes. I actually have a love-hate relationship, and I'm on the upswing right now with them. It usually happens where I find something that I know how to do in Windows, or it's just possible in Windows so much easier than in Apple. I'm like, I'm done with this thing, and I bring my Windows laptop back, and then something draws me, the marketing, I think, that I'm like, it's just so clean and crisp, and Apple is good at what Apple is good at, and that is making their operating system very functional, very crisp, very clean. But sometimes that gets in the way when we want to do things outside of the box. That is, set up a USB to serial adapter that connects via the terminal to a console port. That's not something that most people do when they buy an Apple computer. Now, the great news is that Apple has become extraordinarily popular in recent years. So it used to be very tough to go find drivers that would work with your USB to serial converter. Nowadays, it's fairly simple. Just go to whatever website you purchased your thing from, your widget, and download the drivers. It's literally a kind of, I'm going to say it in Windows term, next, finish sort of thing. Go through the wizard and you're there. Drivers are installed. Most of the time it's going to ask for a reboot and they'll be there, but not so much. Just like Windows, when you first install the USB to serial adapter, it's kind of like, okay, nothing happened. That's because it's added it as a COM port, a console port connection on the side, and now you have to use a terminal program to use it. There are multiple terminal programs for the Apple world. Most of them cost money. So I'm going to use the built-in screen terminal emulation program. That is, it comes with terminal, which is built into the macOS, and allows you to access that serial connectivity to connect to your Cisco devices. All right, so I'm back over at the CCNA pod of equipment. I brought my Apple computer, plopped it right here, cup of coffee, USB-C console cable. So one of the things about Apple, by the time you hear this, this probably will be old news, but USB-C is a fairly new thing, and Apple dropped all USB 3 ports on their devices in favor of USB-C connections. Even though USB 3C, they're all kind of the same thing. So connector type. So I went ahead and bought the integrated all-in-one console cable for the Mac because I didn't want to deal with that. So let me zoom in on the screen real quick. And I'm going to do a, so first off, I've opened terminal right here. I'm going to do an ls/dev. There's so much in the Linux/FreeBSD world to discuss. I'm going to try and keep it just to the console connection. The dev directory on this computer essentially lists every device that is recognized on this. You can see a little Bluetooth adapter, a Yamaha something, probably a sound device of some sort. So I'm going to hit the up arrow and recall that command and do a /*USB* because that will list any USB device that's connected, which as of right now is nothing. So come back here. I've got my USB-C connection. Plug that in. Snap. Take a little drink of coffee. Good. Should be enough. Zoom back in on the screen now, hit the up arrow, and bam. Notice it's got two different devices that are listed. CU USB serial, blah, 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 some identifier there. TTY USB serial, blah, 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 some identifier there. We're going to care about the TTY one. That's the one you want to make a note of, that name. It's going to be different for you. And by the way, if it still shows up blank, after you plug it in and you're sitting there going, what's going on? It's because you don't have the driver installed. So make sure you go download whatever driver it is. If you take a look, I unplug this. I'll skip the drink of coffee. Zoom back to the screen. Hit the up arrow, and it's gone. No such file or directory. Plug it back in, and it should be recognized. Hit the up arrow, and there we go. I should have had the drink of coffee there. So that's the name that we need. Now we need to use that screen command that I showed you just a moment ago. So the command is screen, and that's where you'll use this file name, copy, paste right there, and then what baud rate you want, 9600. Now this is just like PuTTY, just like any terminal program. It's now saying we've got a connection. So I'm going to come back here. All my devices are off. I'm going to plug this into the console port there. Turn it on. It's powering on, and I'm going to give that just a moment. drink some more coffee. And there we go. It's now displaying the output from the Cisco router boot process. It's got the ROM-mon initializing. It's now loading the iOS software. It's going to be in just a second. You'll see the pound symbol start flying across the screen. And there it goes, loading the iOS. It's decompressing it from flash memory into memory, and we have a working console connection on macOS. That's the story. That's all there is to configuring a console connection in OS X. But keep in mind, if you didn't have these 3 crisp steps right here, no, it can take a lot of Googling and searching and trying to figure out how to make it all work together. I'm hoping watching it on my laptop made this last line make sense. Screen followed by /dev and whatever the TTY dot your USB serial name is, followed by the baud rate, which is typically 9600 baud. You've now seen how to set up an Apple computer to configure network devices through the console port. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.